Want to start by thanking all of you for sticking around. It's been a productive week, but a long one, a productive day, but a long one, and we appreciate you making a little more time to talk about one topic, and that topic is innovators. Innovators are people who believe not only that the world should be different, but can be different, and that are willing to put their time, energy, and resources into making that difference a reality. That's the common characteristic that you're going to see from the 6 people who are going to join us on stage today. These are individuals whose companies are collectively worth billions of dollars, that generate hundreds of millions of dollars of revenue, but more importantly than that, these are companies that are having a demonstrable impact today on the shape and nature of our industry, and that is an impact that I believe, and all of us believe, is likely to only compound over time. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Hot Six. Yeah. Before we bring our first participant to the stage, I want to give our panel an opportunity to briefly introduce themselves. My name is Chris. I work for a variety of firms. They already talked about me. Lloyd, who you are and what you do.
Hey guys, Lloyd Danzig, managing partner at Sharp Alpha Advisors. We're a venture firm that specializes in sports betting and online gaming.
Melissa Blau, an advisor to the industry, working with Superbook, Potawatomi, Choctaw, Desert Diamond, the Delaware Lottery. And before I got into gaming, which I've been in for 20 years, I managed a venture capital fund. And I'm also an advisor to Bettor Capital.
Dave and Egmond from Bettor Capital, managing partner. We're a venture fund focused on the online gambling sector.
Great. So first up, we're going to have Omer Sattar, who is the co-founder and co-CEO of Sightline Payments. Sightline Payments is leading the way in the digital transformation of the regulated gaming industry, serves as the hub for gaming operators, regulators, banks, card networks, and payments as it continues to innovate and develop the processes, systems, and networks supporting a more modern payments infrastructure for our industry. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Omer Sattar. Wow, I didn't know it was going to be that kind of show, but...
Now it's a hot city.
Omer, welcome. We're going to get right into it. Who wants the first question?
I can do it. I remember working with you when sports betting launched in 2018 when Play Plus cards really started expanding. Can you just walk us through the evolution of your business, where it came from, and where you are now as a leader in the payment sector?
There was a lot of luck. And in all seriousness, I actually have a question. I know this is an iGaming show. Any people here from the brick and mortar casino business? All right, a handful. And so we're going to do this by the numbers. I'm going to answer that question. And I'm sure you all know these numbers. The brick and mortar commercial casino business last year in the U.S. generated $60 billion in gross gaming revenue. If we look at the tribal business, it's probably about another $50 billion. The total sports betting and iGaming business combined was $12.5 billion. $7.5 billion from sports betting, and iGaming was $5 billion. And if we add state lotteries, horse racing, a host of other businesses, that puts sports betting and iGaming as a single-digit business for the U.S. entire gaming industry. And now, there is a massive business on the brick and mortar side, and now I'm going to tie payments in the two together. And in that, there's about 1,000 brick and mortar casinos in America, and they generated for $110 billion in gross gaming revenue, and they generated $3 to $4 billion of income from payments. Now, on the flip side, on the sports betting side and on the iGaming side, this $12.5 billion business paid about 10% of their GGR for payments. So they didn't make $3 or $4 billion; they spent $1.2 billion. So why the difference, right? Where's the big disconnect? There's 3 major reasons there. And the first reason is, in the brick and mortar industry, we charge patron fees. There are no patron fees in the sports betting and iGaming industry. That's one thing which I think the industry has in fact gotten right. There should be no fees. It makes no sense to tell someone, hey, come to my casino, spend your money, but pay to get your own money and then spend your own money. That has never made any sense. There are long historical reasons for that. We think that that's going to go away. Sports betting and iGaming got that right. The second reason is we've talked about this ad nauseum at all kinds of events, and I call it the Bank of America problem. I hope there's no one here from Bank of America, but it's a generic banking problem. And the example for Bank of America is, if let's just say you're a sports bettor at MGM and you also play at BetMGM, and you play sports bettor at BetMGM and you gamble at MGM. If you take a Bank of America credit card and walk up to an MGM casino cage, and you can use that credit card to purchase chips, turn around, sit down at a blackjack table and start playing. In the very same minute, you can download the BetMGM app and use the exact same credit card to try to fund a sports bet, and you're going to get declined. And the rationale that Bank of America has makes no sense at all. And that leads to a number of things. The average dollar transaction size that still takes place in sports betting and iGaming is about a third of the transaction size that takes place in the brick and mortar industry. There's a massive difference there. The third, which I guess many of you might not relate to, I don't know, how many people here live in America? Not that many, maybe 30%. And all right, of the people that hands that went up, anyone in the last 12 months, either you or in your household shopped at Target? All right, a few people. Of the people that raised their hands, anyone familiar with something called the Target Red program? All right, 1, 2. All right, so let me just, I'm going to talk about Target very briefly, and this is going to tie it together. And I don't know, why don't you all shop at Target? Target's amazing.
Awesome.
Target's awesome. All right, so Target does $100 billion a year in revenue. That is almost as much as the entire gaming industry combined. 20% of that revenue comes from something called the Target Red program. So what does Target know about payments? So this is a $20 billion a year of revenue from that Target derives from that. And what has Target learned from payments, in payments, that iGaming and sports betting has? That's really the question. The way we see this is the first inning was played out in a way 5, 6, 7 years ago with the likes of the FanDuels and the DraftKings innovating. And there was some payments innovation that took place around that. But the industry needs to evolve and change. And if for anyone here who's in the industry, and if you really want to get payments right, I would say go look at what Target does. And what's going to end up happening is that $1.2 billion that was paid last year, I would bet can be cut by about 50% by the sports operators. And if you are FanDuel, DraftKings, BetMGM, Caesars, Barstool, of the big four, the big five, and if you can bring, if you can reduce your expenses by $150 million a year, without actually having to do much, and if you do payments right, and that's very significant. So the next round of innovation is coming, and it needs to come. So the final question is, why hasn't it happened already? Well, because as we all know, in a world of free money, all anyone wanted to do was acquire customers. And, well, that world of acquiring customers has clearly changed. And so it's now time to examine the business and to continue innovating. That was a very long answer. Question of how we got here.
I appreciate that being an entrepreneur means having to pivot, right? And about 1.5 years ago, Visa sort of changed on you, which then forced you to have to change your business in a way. Yep. So maybe you can share a little bit about how you were able to share your business and some of the thought processes about acting as a catalyst for you.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So I've been in the payments business and gaming since 2005. So this pivot has happened multiple times, and the networks have a love-hate relationship with gaming. And we were there together in Delaware when at the very first RFP meeting that was taking place with 50 people in a room, and none of us really knew what we were doing, and we all kind of figured it out together. And Visa and MasterCard have something called merchant category codes. You might be familiar with it. It's actually a really smart system. The way I describe it, it's super simple. And if you want to go buy a stick of gum, if you walk into a convenience store, there's a merchant category code for that. And If you walk into a grocery store and buy the same stick of gum, there's a different merchant category code for that. And, there's a gentleman who's not here today. Many of you know him. His name is Joe Papano. He helped create the merchant category codes at Visa and MasterCard, and for state lotteries, for daily fantasy, for sports betting, and for iGaming. And we have to evolve beyond that. And, so Visa first changed its codes, then MasterCard changed it. So Visa was 2 years ago, MasterCard was last year. And the codes are now standardized, but still somewhat problematic. And the networks go up and down in their oscillation of engagement. Part of the problem really is, the reality is, and the volume that all of us collectively have for the networks is tiny, right? Getting their mind share is very difficult. We think that, hey, $12 billion is a lot of money. It really isn't. Right? When a target goes to a network and says it's $100 billion of volume or $500 billion of volume. So the way for the industry to really have the discussion with the networks is to show the total TAM of the industry. Right? You're talking about sports betting, iGaming, commercial casinos, tribal casinos, state lotteries, daily fantasy. When you put it all together, that moves the needle for the networks. And so yeah, there have been multiple pivots. I mean, we started the business by saying we're going to take casinos cashless. And we were just lucky. It just happened to be that we were working with Bally Technologies and Golden Nugget. It just happened to be that the Department of Justice said, hey, you could do this thing. And Bally Technologies told Golden Nugget that, oh, you should take payments from Sightline. So we ended up doing payments for Sightline. Well, Betfair went and took a license from Golden Nugget. Betfair said, well, we've got this horse racing site called TVG. Can you try payments there? And we said, sure. And from TVG, folks like William Hill and Station Casinos in Nevada saw, hey, these guys do payments for horse racing. Can they do sports betting? So we started doing sports betting in 2013. Right, they're like the BlackBerry-style sports betting in Nevada with stations in William Hill, and then PASPA got repealed. But the point of all of this is that the world is completely omnichannel. None of us live in digital or brick and mortar. We have to think about how the money moves. So everything we think about is, there's only two things that matter: money and loyalty. How does money and loyalty seamlessly follow a person wherever they want to go? You want to eat, you want to drink, you want to shop, you want to place your sports bet, you want to go to a stadium, you want to get your jersey from Fanatics, all the things that you want to do. And if those two things can seamlessly follow, that's where the business has to innovate. So yeah, there've probably been 4 or 5 pivots for Sightline. I've never been in a hot list before. I mean, we started the company in 2009, and we launched our first products in 2012, and so yeah, many pivots since then.
We saw the way you took off that jacket. I'm going to contest that you've never been on a hot list before. Lloyd, a quick question to wrap up the time that we have with Omer.
If you can answer in 9 seconds, I suppose.
I can do it.
Is cashless gaming important? Why is it important? And why are you guys best positioned to implement cashless gaming solutions?
It is important. There's about 100 casinos in America that are running it right now. It's very rudimentary. I think you're going to see broad-scale adoption over the next 18 months. I think we're in decent position. I'll be honest with you. We never claim. Sightline, I believe, is going to own 25% of the market. There's going to be plenty of market left for a lot of other people. But we believe there's $100 billion of volume there. Plenty for everyone.
Join me in thanking for his time and his insights, Omer Sattar. Next up, we have Joey Levy alongside co-founder Jake Paul. Joey founded Bettor in 2022. Bettor is the fastest growing sports betting media brand in the U.S. and the first micro-betting focused gaming company. Micro-betting allows users to bet on individual plays and events rather than the outcome of a game. With its simple and intuitive user interface, Bettor aims to solve a problem with traditional sportsbooks, a complicated and confusing user experience that looks more like a spreadsheet than a sportsbook. Please join me in welcoming to the stage Joey Levy. You earned our first woo. Congratulations. It's amazing. Dave got started last time. Lloyd, why don't you kick us off on this one?
Joey, you told me yesterday that you saw a path to Bettor achieving the best unit economics of any operator in the market. Obviously, customer acquisition costs have been challenging even for the most established players. What advantages do you guys leverage, and are you planning to leverage, that you think makes that an achievable endpoint?
Sure. Yeah, happy to get started there. Thank you for having me. That's really the entire premise of our business, and we're building the quick answer to that is we're building a media company to accomplish that, right? And there's really 3 things that we're predominantly focused on at Betr right now. So one is low to no CAC. In Ohio, for example, and again, we're deliberately not playing the market share game at this time, really trying to prove out these three things that I'm going to outline for you guys. So with respect to low to no CAC, we're building this media company that is focused on original and short form content, led by Jake Paul from a content standpoint, but we know we're going to fail if we're synonymous with just being the Jake Paul sportsbook. We want the next 100 Jake Pauls to come through Betr Media. And obviously, nobody really better than Jake himself to be sort of the godfather of this talent network. And we're surrounding him with really great content development expertise, production expertise. We have an awesome head of media who helped build BR Betting into the #1 sports betting media brand in the country. So in Ohio, for example, we have to extrapolate some of this data because Instagram and TikTok don't tell us exactly how many people in Ohio we have. But we estimate that over 20% of our social media audience in Ohio converted to real money gaming products in just the first 2 months. And we could get a lot better with media too, but that, from our standpoint, is best in class, unprecedented conversion to real money gaming. And it's not a $0 CAC. We have a $50 sign-up bonus. We have a 10% margin. But it's a $45 CAC, which is an order of magnitude lower than what the incumbents are paying. So low to no CAC is pillar one. Pillar two is just strong user engagement. And as some of you may know, we're focused predominantly on micro betting at this time, although we are seeking product parity with the other operators and integrating our own versions of money lines, point spreads, over-unders, parlays, props, etc. Simply because we're paying the same amount in market access and licensing as FanDuel and DraftKings, yet somebody literally has to download FanDuel or DraftKings if they want to bet on the outcome of a game. So we are seeking product parity, but you'll never see like a -175 or a +5.5 point spread because I got started in all of this and I started my prior company, Simplebet, to solve the issue of those product experiences just not being intuitive or interpretable to a mass market consumer who's never been on sports before. So it'll be displayed in our simple intuitive UI layer. But to get to the point of user engagement, started with micro betting as like our stick, really differentiating on product for the first time in this category. And we're seeing great engagement. Over 90% of our users bet multiple times. Well over half have bet over 10 times. Over 15% have bet over 50 times. Well over half of our January users came back and bet in February. And this is with less than 1% of the betting markets and really a minimum viable product. Like our product is nowhere near where we want it to be or need it to be, but at least it demonstrates some of the core vision. So user engagement is, we're generally content with it so far. And then finally, the third pillar being community-driven vitality. We can turn on the brand awareness engine when we want to. Jake happens to be probably a top 5 most famous world athlete influencer. And he hasn't even scratched the surface of what he can ultimately do from a brand awareness standpoint for this business. But before we get into brand awareness, we really want to establish brand affinity with our audience. And I think the only other company in this category that's maybe done a little bit of that is Barstool Sports. And I think they've done a lot of things well. I think there's areas of improvement. I think you could build something more mainstream, more culturally relevant, more inclusive, less polarizing for the next generation of sports fans. So those are the 3 pillars. If we're able to execute well against those 3 things, I think 18, 24 months from now, we could sit here and Betr will have the best unit economics in the category. And then I'd like to go out and raise a few $100 million and pour gasoline on the fire here, but do so in a way where Jake and I still own a substantial part of the company. So deliberately not playing the market share game at this time, want to prove out those 3 things, get to the unit economics narrative that we're comfortable with, and then start playing the market share game from there. So long answer, but hopefully that was informative.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
How do you think about, when on Barstool, I was there obviously, how do you think about differentiation from a talent content standpoint? I think they would admit it's probably mixed results to have 4 or 5% market share. How do you think about differentiating your media business so you can scale up to that level or even surpass them at some point in the future?
Yeah, so I think from the content itself, some of it is maybe a little bit more polarizing than it needs to. So I think we try to stay away from being too polarizing because like the TAM we're going after is like FanDuel and DraftKings have 2 to 3.5 million MAUs. They're in front of 85 million gambling age sports fans. At maturity, they'll be in front of about 175 million gambling age sports fans. They've had decade-long DFS businesses that have generally been in front of most of those sports fans. So they don't have mainstream market penetration. I think the opportunity is to go from that 3.5 million to that 85, 175 million. I'm not saying all of them should gamble, but 20, 30 million MAUs is certainly not out of the realm of possibility in this category. So I think just taking a more mainstream approach to the content creation, I think a lot of it's just also like the demographic is a little bit different. I think they really specialize with millennials, maybe a little bit older millennials. I think, we have an opportunity from the 21 to 34 demographic. We're really doing well there. But then perhaps most importantly, I would say we're differentiating our product experience. I think most, if not all, direct-to-consumer sports betting operators, perhaps with the exception of the exchange guys, they view sportsbook as a commoditized thing. You have a sportsbook, and the way you win is via some combination of how you go about market access, how you go about brand awareness, customer acquisition, retention offers, bonusing, et cetera. But I don't think you have anybody in the category, at least anybody that really has a shot, that is kind of asking themselves, like, is this the end state product? And Barstool, launched a Canby Sportsbook, and now they're migrating to the Score, and that's fine. And you could be a 4 to 5% market share business and make a lot of money. We're trying to be the category-defining consumer business and really differentiate on product, not offer a commoditized sportsbook that looks and feels like a spreadsheet that features an uninterpretable core product experience.
So first of all, thank you. I mean, congratulations on Ohio and being profitable after promotions. You're one of two, and that's not a small feat, right? So I appreciate that you're not going after market share, but that's still not a small feat. So my question, I have a couple of questions. One is, given that you are up against casino sportsbooks that are offering a full product offering of live and in-play, and you still want to create that differentiation of a live product, but yet you still need to have, as you call it, product parity.
Yep.
How do you balance that?
Yeah, I mean, I deliberately wanted to, so the benefit of launching only with micro betting to start, really two things. One is it enabled us to launch as quickly as possible. So, I think we actually have the record from company founding to launching a regulated, licensed online sports betting product. We're the fastest in US online sports betting history. And the reason why we wanted to be the fastest was we think that we get a lot of value by being in front of real customers and learning from real user feedback and data. We didn't want to build in a black box for too long. So one, we got to go live very quickly and also start generating revenue. I mean, people think we raised a lot of money pre-revenue, but $50 million is nothing in this category. FanDuel and DraftKings, you just look at the promotional bonuses just in Ohio, just in January, that's 3 times more than our entire equity financing to date. Mm-hmm. So we can't play that game. We don't want to play that game. But the second benefit we get by going live with micro betting only is that we, as I alluded to a few minutes ago, we have like a shtick, right? Like we have something that we're known for from a product standpoint that's different than everybody else. And we're kind of planting our flag and saying that like the product experience will look and feel different, but now we're introducing product parity. So for example, next week, we're gonna have core markets for college basketball just in time for March Madness. Early in the MLB season, you're gonna have our versions of core markets for that as well. So we're now gonna methodically and gradually establish product parity and generally have most of what the other books will have in over the next few months.
Different than everyone else, but the same as me in that he's not wearing socks, which is a choice I always appreciate. Put down your phones and put your hands together like this.
I had another question.
And Joey Levy. Next up, we've got Chris Bevilacqua with a fantastic name, especially the first one, the co-founder and CEO of Simplebet. It's a technology company revolutionizing the way that fans engage with live sports, making every moment of every sporting event a wagering opportunity. Partnered with Caesars Sportsbook, Bet365, and a company you may have recently heard of, Betr. integrating its industry-leading microbetting technology into those respective platforms. Record-breaking numbers with its NFL and college football products this season, notably garnering more than 3.7 million bets over the course of the 2022 NFL playoffs. Welcome to the stage, Chris Bevilacqua.
Thanks. I got ankle socks on. Is that okay?
Yeah, well, they're low socks, so we're still good.
Okay.
If they were all the way up, then we'd have a problem. Melissa, you got short shrifted at the end there. Why don't you lead us off with the first question for Chris?
I'm going to go a little niche on this question because I've seen that.
Niche-y, okay, yep.
Yeah, so it's a subject that I'm passionate about. Given that the leagues are charging for the live data.
Oh, I know where you're going with this. Go ahead.
I had to ask it, even though it was first. I was hoping I was last. How do you get around that? How do you live with that? I mean, are they charging him? Are they charging you? Are they charging you both? How does that work with live
Yeah,
packages?
they're charging everyone double, triple dipping, all that's happening. But I just want to say, I like the order of Joey going before me because it's the reverse of what happened in real life. And Joey and Scott Marshall, who's over here, the three of us, we founded the business almost 5 years ago today. So we were a month before PASPA was getting repealed. And ironically, Joey was the sports betting guy and I was the media guy. Now he's the media guy and I'm the sports betting guy. And I spent a lot of time, Melissa, in my career. I've been doing this for 35 years. I actually own a piece of a Major League Baseball team. I worked at the leagues. I know the value of the IP and why the leagues have architected the way data rights work, going all the way back to the beginning of time, because that's how they sell their IP. So the way that they've architected today, as it's moving into exclusivity, you're right. They've given these rights to essentially a gatekeeper, which is what you're referring to. And the conversations I have quite regularly with the leagues is, you don't want to farm out innovation to gatekeepers, right? So it's a real issue, and I know there's probably folks from the data companies in here, and I don't think it's going to stay the way that it is now. I mean, there's obviously a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes with there's regulators involved, there's people looking at all this, and I think ultimately we look at data, and data is obviously necessary to do what we do. And we need, breadth and speed and accuracy and precision, especially as an in-play product, right? It has to be super accurate and it has to be high-quality feeds. So there's a lot of issues because there's human beings involved in the chain of custody of data. There's always mistakes, right? So we've created a software that self-corrects automatically, which is actually what enables us to have the uptime and the user experience. So that in a baseball market where you got 21 seconds in between a pitch, right, we can keep the market open for 17, 18 seconds and you can get the bet in. And that's why 52% of all of our hundreds of millions of dollars of volume in baseball were on 2 pitch level markets. So data is necessary, right? I'd like to see it more malleable in terms of the way the leagues bring it into the market with their partners. And I think there's some work to do there.
Chris, I guess you expressed affinity for Chris's name because you share a first name. I'm always reminded that Mr. Bevilacqua was the gym teacher of George and Jerry when they were kids on Seinfeld, but that's a story for another day.
Did you know that? I mean,
I always
so
think
you're a
of
Seinfeld
you
fan.
when I'm watching Seinfeld.
It is
and they
true.
say,
My
Mr.
father was
Bevilacqua,
Jerry's
Mr.
gym
Bevilacqua.
teacher, right?
Talk to us a bit about challenges involving video streaming latency. Do you guys seek to work around current latency challenges? Are you hoping to drive video streaming latency down to near zero? How does video streaming latency impact your business, and how do you guys try to overcome those challenges?
Let's go back to the leagues, right? Because that's IP. That's where it all starts, right? So the first thing to say on latency, the technology to deliver low latency video already exists, right? And it's been around for a while. Companies like Phoenix and even the data companies have streaming capabilities that reduce latency to a pretty low level. On the flip side, the leagues in particular don't want zero latency, right? Because you have to have enough time for ad insertion. So the sweet spot's probably 3-4 seconds of latency. And when you take and that's part one. Part two is it's sort of all mucked up in the existing rights agreements, right? So when leagues sell their video rights, which is, business I know well, they go and they sell it in a wholesale model, right? They sell it to a programmer like Fox or ESPN, and then ESPN and Fox sell it to the retailers, Comcast and DirecTV, and they sell it exclusively. So you can't untether the live video from the bundle, right? On the other hand, all the new rights agreements, NFL just did theirs, they just did YouTube and Sunday Ticket, there will be a live betting feed in there at some point with low latency video. So all the new cycle of rights agreements, NBA is up next, are all going to allow for this type of technology to exist. And then that's, I think, where you're going to start to see a lot of product innovation, not only in the, which Joey's working on now. He mentioned a minute ago about the UX and simplifying the customer journey. It's just way too complicated the way that it is. But when you pair up some of that low latency video together with, a simplified UX, and that's a killer product experience. So I think you're going to see more and more of that contextual bet, the bet discovery, surfacing the right bet to the right user at the right time. Like all those things, I think is the next cycle of innovation.
Well, on that innovation topic, congrats on all the success sort of creating this term micro markets, and it's a big phenomenon in the industry now. What's next? Is it more sports, other type of derivative markets? Like what's on the product roadmap as a key goal to launch new product or new features?
Yeah, I mean, for sure, more sports. I mean, when we started the company, right, we decided to double down on U.S. sports once PASPA got repealed. So the U.S. market, North American market, and the U.S. sports. And so we built out our current set of products, which are NBA, NFL, MLB, college football, college basketball. And they're starting to get real traction. Like we've seen just our micros on our current partners are getting 25-30% share of live in-play markets, and even close to 40% GGR of some of certain sports. So it's now starting to get real distribution, and now we want to get to sports, the next set of sports, if you will, more, let's call it more global, like so sports like soccer, golf, tennis, where this type of in-play experience is sort of tailor-made for the cadence of those sports. And then we're also looking at adding, like we've got football, baseball, and basketball products built, so we could look at other smaller sports like football-related products like XFL, USFL, Indoor Football League, or European leagues of basketball, for example. So taking sports that we have, going more global, and then getting a sport like soccer, which is the biggest global sport, but doesn't really have a great in-play micro product out yet.
Yeah. And on that topic, one additional follow-up then, how do you think about, global operators and what they already have in risk and trading versus your kind of IP differentiation, and how do you sell into them on why they should be partnered with you?
I mean, I think you just look at the results that we're having with just the in-play product and the gamification. I think, longer term, like Joey was saying earlier, like simplifying the experience. I mean, there's 10 million or so here in the U.S. active accounts for sports betting, but yet there's 120 million people that bet on sports. And the product experience is too complicated for a casual user. I think the same thing goes for international sports, right? That, it's been around a lot longer internationally, and the product is made for, a certain experience. Like just simplifying it, right, and making it more accessible to the casual fan is what, how we position it on the global basis too.
If I recall correctly, I think you'd mentioned soccer here. I think part of the original Simplebet pitch, part of the answer to the why now, is that U.S. sports lend themselves to micro betting more so than a lot of international sports, and that is at least part of the reason for which micro betting infrastructure was not well developed prior to PASPA. In regards to soccer in particular, as it is the largest global sport, do you think there is a way to solve for micro betting in the sport of soccer? Is it just too difficult given the lack of stoppages? Would be curious to hear how you think micro betting could fit into the sport.
The short answer is I don't know, but we're definitely going to try, right? So I would tell you that like the sport that we had the most difficulty with was basketball because of the continuous flow. And so we had a year, or half a year under our belt from last year, and we saw what we were doing wrong and how to improve it. And it's crushing it this year. Like, we figured it out. I mean, we're 30, 40x of the revenue a year later that we're getting on NBA now, and it's only getting better. The product's only getting better. The whole percentage is very strong. Same for college basketball. I think at soccer, we'd probably go about it the same way, right? We try to build something, right? Again, we got to get the data. We got to get the necessary data. And once we get something like an MVP built, we'll go out and we'll try it. And what we're really good at is iterating and doing it very quickly. We have a team of all-stars that know how to really iterate and improve the product and do it very quickly.
We learned that he does not mind if you get a little nichey. Please join me in thanking first time and insights Chris Bevilacqua from Simplebet. Fourth on our list of the Hot Six is Vijay Dewan, who is the founder and CEO of Pine Sports, whose mission is to change the way people bet on sports by providing access to cutting-edge AI-powered insights. With over 150,000 monthly active users and an average engagement time of 8 minutes per day, Pine Sports has established itself as a leader in that category. And the company's latest addition, a generative AI tool, allows users to create high-quality, long-form sports betting content in just minutes. Join me in welcoming Vijay Dewan to the stage.
I can kick us off if you want. Sure. Vijay, tell us a bit more about where generative AI fits into the sports betting landscape. Is it a B2B tool? Is it a B2C tool? Is it a bit of both? What should people expect as to the use cases and applications for generative AI in the space over the coming years?
Well, first, thanks for having me. Really appreciate it. I think that's a really interesting question, and I think it's everything, and I can explain that a little bit better. I was on a panel a little bit earlier today. So I think it's worth just explaining what generative AI is first, and then talking about potential use cases in every business, and then in particular sports betting. So something like GPT-3 it's a multi-billion, 150 billion node neural network that was trained on 600 billion words, which is about 4 million books. It's read the entire internet. It's read everything. So the problems with it, if you've played with it, you can see the results are astounding. But it does have significant flaws that you have to overcome in order to make it extremely useful. The first is the model, it costs somewhere between $15 and $20 million for them to just train that model. So you can't do that every day, every month. This one was trained in September of 2021. That's the first problem. So it doesn't know anything that happened after that. The second problem is it's trained to predict the next word in a sentence. So it has a context window where anything beyond that is just, it falls apart. And the context window for GPT-3 is around 4,000 words. So you can kind of tell it new things, but you have to be extremely efficient in how you do that because you have a very limited window in order to get it up to speed on what happened in the last 3 years or 2 years. The third is what people call hallucinating. It tends to make things up if it doesn't know the answer, and it says it very confidently. So it's very hard to detect unless you're a subject matter expert.
I know some people who do that as
That's
well.
what I can relate deeply.
I'm like, I know,
deeply to that
they're called
tendency.
politicians.
Yeah.
So those are significant hurdles you have to overcome. The last is sort of part of the hallucination thing, is it's a language model, it's not a math model. There's a lot of AI that does math really well, and we have a lot of it on Pine. But this does not do math well. It's terrible at math. So there are a lot of different ways by integrating other models, by being very efficient in how you use that context window to overcome these things. And I think those are the things, what I see innovators working on. So in the sports betting space, what we did is we kind of figured out a way to overcome all of those to allow people to create long-form content that's customized to them. So instead of companies having 1,000 articles, hoping that it meets one of the bets that you're thinking of placing, you can come to Pine and ask it about a particular player prop or a bet, and it'll in real time, on the fly, generate an article custom to what you want. So I think customization, doing it at scale. So think about this if you're a fantasy company, and you can, at scale, send every single individual, all the million users, an email that's specific to their team, specific to who they are, and fun, engaging. You can see GPT-3 does things really interesting. So customization is super interesting, and I think every business can figure out a way to do that. Scale is another thing. It's basically bringing costs, labor costs down to zero, and scale close to infinity if you parallelize and do all that stuff. So you can, if you're in the content generation business, you can scale really quickly and really cheaply. But beyond that, if you plug it into other things, and this is an example I gave before, it can actually just do tasks that you had an intern doing or something. Where think about if you're Bettor and you want to know what's going on Twitter and what people are saying about you. I can make a bot that scrapes Twitter for your name, sends it to GPT-3, summarizes it, and sends it to your inbox every, maybe it scrapes every 10 minutes and sends you a daily summary. And maybe if something's super good or super bad, it'll direct it to the right employee in your space that can actually respond. It can actually even draft a draft response for you. And that'll be sitting in your inbox saying, ooh, somebody, there was a missed bet or, something was mistimed. This person's complaining a lot. Here's a draft response, and all you have to do is go and do it yourself. But it can really make every organization efficient. And I think there's a lot of places in the sports betting space you're going to see it used. And my view is you either use it or, you lose.
I was checking out your product and I went on your Discord, right?
Yeah.
And it was super interesting. Like we're using AI for product recommendations and for churn.
Mm-hmm.
But what I thought was really interesting about your product was I felt it was like a little bit almost like an affiliate, right? I wasn't sure if that was an affiliate because you were kind of sending me to certain websites, but I wasn't sure if you were getting a fee for that. So I'm just wondering as a customer, like how I would feel about that.
So we're trying to provide value to my focus, and the reason I built this was really to provide value to the actual bettor. I wanted to give them tools they didn't have access to before that maybe people at Simplebet have access to. I wanted to make them a little bit more data focused, and I was kind of thinking of my friends when building this. So the way I kind of thought about it was also it's betting, so it's very community oriented. So we wanted to build a community around it. So we were hyper focused on product and community. I looked at companies like Instagram and the way they were able to build community, because when you're building a network product, the product gets more valuable the more people that are on it, because the community then becomes value in and of itself. But it's hard to do that from scratch. You have to solve the cold start problem. So the way I did it was focusing on tools that were really interesting and allowing people to share insights with the click of a button. Part of that is, we tell you where the best line is. We have all the books. So we do have affiliate relationships, but we're not driving them to a particular book right now. We're actually just telling them where, if they want to make a bet, where the best place is. So I think, in my view, that's a win-win. We get to keep the product free and cheap, and we'll take affiliate money if they're willing to give it to us. So.
No, I thought it was really interesting. It was almost
Thanks.
like, in a way, it was like CNBC. Like it's not just giving me the data; it was contextual, so I can actually relate to it.
So we had we do a lot in Discord. We're in about 500 Discords. We have our own Discord, but we have a bot, an AI bot that's in about 500, where we give people, you could type in a player name in Discord, and it'll just boom send you a chart, send you some information on how that player has done recently, and then tell you what book has the best over, what book has the best under. We also have a bot that pushes out any ARB opportunities, arbitrage opportunities, or opportunities to middle, and then we tell you how the books work, and we actually build out the distribution for you so you can actually visualize, if it's a middle, how that kind of plays out. Because there's a lot of math behind it. We try to make it as simple as possible.
And how do you think about your monetization going forward? Will it be affiliate? Is it subscription fees? How do you think about that part of the business?
So the lowest hanging fruit was affiliate, and I think we wanted to really focus on keeping it as frictionless as possible to grow the audience, and I think we finally reached that. We are super lean, so we don't really have huge expenses. So the next step for us is we are creating some tools that are really high end, that really professional type bettors would want, and probably keep that subscription. Some of it's going to be expensive for us to maintain. In addition to that, we have a social platform where people can write articles. A lot of these people are influencers. There was a talk earlier about betting Twitter and the influencer community. We provide tools for them, and we're going to actually work on a tool that allows them to sort of self-monetize. And it's almost like an app store where they can have people subscribe to their articles. You can build your own AI models, so people can subscribe to a model that they like, and we back test, we score it. So it's objective, and then you can get that as a feed. So that's sort of on top of that. That's where we're thinking of next.
Have you thought about tools for the bookmaker?
I haven't specifically. I think there are a lot of great companies doing that. And where I saw sort of the gap in the market was the other way around.
Yeah.
Well, the robots may be coming for all of us, but at least we have Vijay to give us a heads up slightly before that happens. Give him a round of applause for saving us, or at least delaying the inevitable. Vijay, thank you for your time. Fifth on our list is Peter Sullivan, the CEO and co-founder of Jackpocket, whose mission is to create a more convenient, fun, and responsible way to play the lottery. They are the #1 lottery app in America, with over 250 million in lottery prizes won to date. Jackpocket recently celebrated its 27th millionaire winner. Maybe we can find the 28th in this audience, but either way, a round of applause as he joins us on stage. Peter Sullivan. Dave, why don't you kick us off? That was a firm handshake. It seems like you've got a question locked and loaded.
Well, we've known each other for a while. I find your founding story one of the most interesting, how you created this new category and the steps you had to go through over years to create the category, and specifically in New York, what you had to do. So can you just walk us through that for people who don't know?
Well, thanks for having me. So Jackpocket, my dad was an everyday lottery player, MTA worker here in the city, just retired finally. He moved us out of Brooklyn to Jersey to make a better life for us. And what that also meant was he became an everyday New York and New Jersey lottery player. So he was the head coach for all my sporting teams growing up, and he would drive, make the commute. And even though he was head coach, we would be late to every game in practice. Super embarrassing, because he had to go and buy his lottery tickets. And the drawings go off during the time of the game in practice, so we had to go beforehand. My dad is computer illiterate, cannot forward an email to this day still. And so we forced him to get an iPhone 5. And all of a sudden he was playing what we now know as social casino games, and where he wasn't even winning real money. And he said, "What are you doing?" And he says, "Practicing," right? He's practicing slot machines on his phone. So I was like, why can't he get a ticket? And so we started to approach states with this concept. And they were, our premise was, can we actually create a brand, a multi-jurisdictional brand, and offer people the opportunity to order official state lottery tickets on the phone? Well, the way we did this was we actually went and we bought a bodega in Queens, New York. And we were able to use that terminal to build technology that would allow someone to get age verified, make sure that they're geo-verified, submit an order, and then actually process a paper ticket. So we go and we scan and process paper tickets, and we now do this in 15 states. And to give you the amount of scale we're doing, probably this weekend on either the Powerball or Mega Millions, we'll do somewhere between 15 to 18, 19% of every ticket sold in the state is going through our system. This year we'll be crossing 20% easily. And we're currently live in 15 states with this system. And it's grown from one bodega. If you go into our fulfillment center today in New York, there's about 70 IGT terminals that are constantly printing out tickets. And we have patents on 3 different robots that are processing those tickets to keep up with that amount of volume. So it's been a wacky way to get there, but states are finally understanding that they get economies of scale and economics when they work with a company like us.
Peter, I'm invested in one of your competitors, and yet still I'm more than happy to
I
say...
knew you guys were going to bring this up.
I'm more than happy to say I think you guys have one of the most phenomenal consumer apps, not just in lottery, not just in gaming, in the App Store. If people have not checked it out, download Jackpocket. It is an absolute delight to use, ultra easy, ultra intuitive, and I've even heard your competitors mention this as well, which is quite a testament to what you built. Curious, you guys are on the cutting edge. You're leading the charge to convert the $100 billion a year that people in the U.S. spend on lotto tickets to an online forum. What is the next frontier? Is it online scratch cards? Is it inventing your own lottery games that have never been offered before? How do you make sure you're staying ahead of the bunch, and what's next on the product roadmap?
So, in terms of the model that we took to deal with these paper tickets, I always say it's like Netflix. So, at first, you were mailing DVDs, remember that? Then they went to streaming, and that was a cost cut mechanism. But mailing the DVDs had a first digital touch point. You were able to acquire players, or we're acquiring players, they were acquiring, I guess, viewers, build that database. What no one saw coming with Netflix was original content. Not taking in lottery, the games that already exist, but if we were to rethink about how games could be, if you started with a digital touch point, how could that be? Now, with that said though, lottery is a really compelling place to start. So a lot of sports books are trying to get people to go down funnel to become a casino, but they're missing a huge part of the demographic, women. And the largest common denominator of real money gamers are lottery. About 50% of the US population plays lottery on a given year. So what we're trying to do is build a mall. And the analogy I always say is, we want to be the anchor tenant of the mall, and that's lottery. We want to be the Macy's store. Why my mom used to go to the mall. And then once they're in the mall, we want to bring you into all the other stores. So I think we announced yesterday, we finally have a partner that we're launching a casino product in New Jersey. Scratchers are definitely on the horizon. We have a very secret product that I think could add $1 billion of value, something that no one else has done that we've been working on. And then we want to find out what the rest of those stores are. And I think there's a lot of compelling stuff out there, but we're going to probably leave some of the other products to people that are best in business. We've done some affiliate programs where we make a little bit of capital on, but definitely staying focused on lottery too. I don't want to be everywhere all at once. We have to there's a lot more states to go. So
as a woman, I am a big fan of your product and user.
Thank you.
But every time I make a purchase, I'm pissed that I have to pay a fee.
Yeah, well, you're paying a fee. So the way that we make money is when you
To Omar's point, right?
Yeah, when you put money in your account, you have to make a deposit, right? And we need a service fee. So state law says you can't sell a ticket for more than the cost of a ticket. So, and this was reinforced actually through credit card merchants if a retailer is only making 6%, 5%, and now all of a sudden, yes, it's accepted. People don't know. In the state of New York, it's accepted you use a credit card or debit card. But now that's a 3% fee to that merchant. So you took that 5% margin and made it now 2%. So we had to figure a way for us to get the fee. So we charge a convenience fee, but we say it's just like when you order Uber Eats, or you order a ticket on Fandango, or you order a ticket, there's a convenience fee. We're looking to continue to drive that down, but when you play the lottery, $1 billion of lottery tickets go unclaimed. So the interesting thing is someone plays, someone wins in Ohio, you never go to check the ticket. We alert you the money's in your account. You don't have to repay. So if you have that little $5 winning that you probably would have never went and checked on a paper ticket, you don't have to pay another fee. When you pay out, there's no fee. But yeah, we're working, and we're going to be launching, one of the things we're launching is a really interesting loyalty program. So as you gain more loyalty, your fee becomes less and less and less.
So I won, and Mia told me I won.
Yeah. That's we have, people really want to know who Mia is, but we can't reveal her identity.
But then I went back home, and I went to Florida, and I couldn't open the app. So what are you going to do to fix that?
So we're going to launch in Florida. How about that? No. No. You can still withdraw the money, but yeah, we're in a state that you couldn't use it. And obviously, we launched 5 states last year. We're going to launch 3 within the next 30 days, and we're going to launch another 7 at least by the end of this year. So hopefully we can cover that, but we also want to make sure that you can maybe do other things while you're in other states, and maybe some of the stuff we're building will allow you to have gameplay in states even when we're not live.
Like social casino or something.
Something to identify that maybe you are a lottery player before you have a digital premise, and then be able to engage them again. So we're definitely working on that. It's tough. We were the #1 app. There's only 37 apps this year that were #1 in the App Store. I mean, the total App Store. And we had it this year, and it's really frustrating when we can only be targeting 15 states. Imagine if we could have players in every single state.
On that point, sports betting companies often talk about their lobbying efforts, new states opening. You're sort of doing it from scratch on your own. Talk to us about how you go to stage, work with the lottery, or how you go through that process of determining what markets you can go into and how to open them up.
I go to a lot of really boring state lottery conferences, and you have to build integrity. And I've been we always joke we're 10 years into this, halfway to becoming an overnight success, and you have to do a lot. At first, everyone saw it as a disruptor, so I never use that word, because lottery only exists with integrity, right? So if the premise is you're buying something in the hope that you'll get something in return, and if you break that integrity with the lottery, it's super important. Lotteries are actually illegal gaming practices unless done by the state, which is kind of interesting. Now, from those boring lottery conferences, though, I did meet my wife, so I did win the lottery in that respect.
I, for one, am happy to pay a convenience fee to avoid the enormous inconvenience of the archaic process of buying lottery tickets in person. Tell us about some of the features that an online platform can allow, like recurring lottery ticket purchases, pooling lottery ticket bets with others that would not be feasible in a purely brick and mortar retail setting. Yeah,
and that's where we've now figured out how to scale this thing to do the normal lottery. The next 5 years of this company is all about how do we make these experiences funner. So if you are a passive player like myself and you go, you know what, when the lottery goes over 300 million, put me in for $2. And when it goes over 500 million, put me in for 10. So you have the ability to set that. We call it an autoplay subscription. Pools, which happen all the time, whether it's in an office, whether it's between friends and family members. So we've created a way to do that. We also have a public pool system so everyone can buy one ticket into the pool. Those are going to evolve. You're going to see higher stakes. So if you want to put $100 into a pool and be with other people that want to put $100, and then we're going to roll out, hasn't been announced, but we have a desktop product. Finally got approval from New Jersey. So we're going to be announcing that, and that will start to evolve into a platform where if you are at work, it's a little easier to be able to kind of manage a pool from a desktop setting. Just like when you book travel, it's a little bit easier on a desktop setting. So there's going to be new innovations in the product there.
I do have one more question. Am I allowed?
Go for it.
You are allowed. As long as you don't charge a convenience fee. Question.
Because this happened to me in New Jersey when we launched Bingo on Tropicana. And it was
this CX ticket.
And it was this concept of this subscription that you mentioned, which was when you pre-purchase these bingo tickets, and then I go back over to New York. I bought my ticket in New Jersey. Game goes off. Well, I'm back in New York. And so, have you found any challenges with that concept?
We're dealing with that now, actually. And the way that we've done it is that when you're in the state and you have funds and you say, I want to be in this, that autoplay subscription says, okay, I've now signed up. You're allowed to do what's called multi-draw tickets. So if you go most people don't know this though, you can actually go and on your little Scantron, fill out that you want it for multiple draws. So there are ways to do it. We're just trying that other element of having that jackpot be able to be influenced in when the subscription goes off is something that's challenging that we've been going through. But we're really trying to work with payment providers and to make sure that everything stays compliant.
I went to the mall primarily to be ignored by girls. I'm not sure where that fits in with your gambling mall metaphor, but regardless, thank you and join me in thanking Pete for his time and his insights. Last but not least, stay in your seats. Do not leave the room because the doors are locked in violation of several state and local codes. We've got Kelly Pracht, who is the co-founder and CEO of nVenue. That's a sports betting platform designed to stream thousands of live micro markets for fans to engage with during the game. Recently, nVenue has joined forces with the NBA, ever heard of it, to create a groundbreaking product for fans. Together, they will build an NBA-specific micro-betting curation engine to serve unique, contextual, in-game micro-betting markets, props, and parlays. Join me in welcoming to the stage the last of our Hot Six, Kelly Pracht.
Should I kick it off?
Yes.
I would like to hear more about the NBA partnership and the unique content that's created.
All right, you got it. First of all, I'm a little nervous. I don't know. I did not expect that. So, so we spent a lot of time talking with the NBA, talking about really about how do we make microbets more exciting for the fans watching. So if you're just sitting there picking and scrolling, it's not really game relevant. So we started talking with the NBA last year. and talking about, are these relevant to the game? Is this what your fans want? And the answer was no. We want to see something that fits. How do we do that? And so we applied to Launchpad, spent a lot of time with the team, and lo and behold, we were selected to do that. So what are we going to do? So we're taking our engine, our prediction probability engine that literally can stream thousands of bets. We've processed almost 1 billion predictions through our platform right now, with MLB, with Apple TV, with NBC. And so we're taking that and we're going to figure out, and we have figured out, how to curate that into game relevant moments. So do you want to bet for Luka for a prop when he's not on the court? Probably not. Are you more interested when the game is on the edge? Are you more particularly interested in some bets than the other? Yes. So what we're doing is we're taking our AI, which is very heavy on the front end and the back end of that machine learning, and we're bubbling up and surfacing up the contextual bets that match the game. Because fans don't have time to sit there and scroll through 50 bets. It's really frustrating, actually. But if you give them the bets that work with the game, that complement the game, it's a winner. They'll stay longer, they'll watch longer, they'll play more, and it pretty much amplifies the value of that data for everybody involved. So that's what we're doing.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Kelly, we heard from Simplebet before. I know Angstrom Sports was supposed to be on the panel.
Yeah.
Had to pull out last minute. There are other pricing companies in the market. What do you guys see as your edge? Is it the accuracy of your models? Is it the ease of integration for operators? Is it the breadth of markets that you offer? When operators choose nVenue over another solution, why is that? What is your edge?
It's technology. So I spent 20 years bringing some of the most advanced tech in the world to market. It's being able to pivot to what we hear, not just the operators want, but what the fans want. Because microbets, what they are last year, is not the same as what they are today. Not even close. We're learning more. We're going to learn more next year. We need tech platforms that can evolve and bring out new markets rather quickly. We need tech platforms that can listen to the operators and say, oh, you're worried about this, or you think we need this, or oh my goodness, the experience says this. We need innovations that are able to ramp up not just the handle and the engagement, but there's ways to also double and triple the revenues. So technology and responding is what we do. And that's at our core of our being, our existence. We do tech, we live tech, and that's our, many years ago I read this book called Good to Great, and it said, do what you're best at. And we are best at the technology.
From those learnings, I'm curious if you have pinpointed within baseball, for example, which is, I believe, where you guys got your start, what the ideal duration for a micro market is. If we're using baseball, is it the pitch level? Is it the at-bat level? Is it the half-inning level? And is there roughly a number of seconds that can correspond to, where you feel like shorter than a particular duration is maybe too tight and longer ends up being not micro betting anymore? What do you consider the bread and butter of nVenue in terms of the duration of the markets that you support?
So it's the breadth. So really all you have to do is you have to look at what a fan does when they're watching baseball. Are we constantly thinking about what each next pitch is? Probably not. It's fun, it's good to do. But what are we thinking? We're thinking something different when, my team bets on how often I'll bring up the Astros in any type of thing. But if you're an Astros fan, you're thinking one thing, you're thinking a Yankees fan, you're thinking a different thing. And it's not necessarily I'm thinking about what the next pitch will be. So we call it the bet window, if you will. So imagine instead of having to search for the bet, you're presented 4 bets. And the reason I bring this up because it answers to that breadth. So there might be a pitch bet. There might be something funny like how many pitches will there be in this at bat. But you might also be thinking, will the Astros score an RBI this inning? You might also be thinking, if this happened, who will win this inning? Something interesting like that, or also who's going to win the game. And all of those are in your mind. So we propose that instead of offering just one that just hits you over and over again, it's a window of bets with different breadth that keep you engaged. And if you have, say, 4 that are presented to you that complement that game, that's a lot more intriguing and engaging than just a single, I'm going to bet if it's a strike or a ball. That's our view of it, and that's a real fan-centric view.
Maybe talk about your media partnerships. We saw you on powering widget on Apple TV during MLB games and how that's informed your product and technology development as you look to then sell into operators to offer these markets live.
Yeah, what a great partnership that was. They called us 2 weeks before the season started last year and said, hey, can you put your content on air? And we said, yes. That was quick. And so we turned it around within 2 weeks because we've been operating, we'd been on NBC. And they chose to offer something really clean. They took one piece of this, we called it the tip of the iceberg. They picked one thing. A guy in New Jersey is sitting there receiving our feed saying, let's show this, and they put it on screen, which is a little intensive, actually. So some of the bet curation that we're doing saves that step. It saves the person from saying, this is what we do. But what did we learn? First of all, talking with Apple, they told us a few weeks ago, they said, that interactive graphics piece that's on the lower right was one of the favorite things from all of the Apple executives. Why is that? Because it got the most traffic. It was really different. It got people to think. Some people hated it. A lot of people loved it. A lot of people wanted to just know more about it. In fact, I talked to somebody last week who said, Kelly, I really loved it. I wanted to know more. I kept touching the screen. Like they wanted it to open up. So what we learned, David, was like, people want more information, and they're also really passionate about the numbers. And I think we need to acknowledge that with this casual betting, with micro betting, it's more about emotion, bias, because we would hear people say, "Oh, that's BS." Like, I can't believe you said 27% when clearly I think it should be 32%. They don't know. There's do you really know the numbers of some of these things, like when it's a batter facing a pitcher in the bottom of the sixth? I mean, there's a lot to it. But we learned that people liked it, they want more, and they want to interact with it. And we learned that we knew that was going to happen, and that's why microbets are going to succeed.
So it's interesting because you both brought up the concept of the focus on the casual bettor. Mm-hmm. And the times that I have done micro betting or point-by-point tennis, I found it to be almost like work, right? It's anything but casual and fun. It is work. So how do you balance that?
Yeah, I'm super passionate about that because the casual bettor is not necessarily going to look like what the sports book looks like, and a lot of times that's what we offer. That's what we're being offered is a sports book environment. So a casual bettor to me is, and I say this a lot lately, but it's the Super Bowl party, not necessarily the sports book. So how do you get everybody to engage? You recognize first of all that they're different and they want to bet different things. You need to provide short, sweet, reachable bets, like I was talking about the bet window, maybe 4 things personalized within the game. And you need to make it where it's fun and not work. You're right, today it's work and it's actually distracting. So we have a long way to go in order to get to that proper UX and UI. What our technology does is we're going to make that easier for that UX and UI to recognize what the right bets are and what the right windows are. That's the way we're addressing that problem and how we're helping our future clients do that.
Do you notice that there's I find that there's 2 types of sports books. There's those that own their own tech and could integrate in your feeds, both of your feeds. And then there are ones that are on other people's tech. And there might be some more challenges to that. What's the long-term plan?
Yeah, so first of all, this is super exciting time for this industry. Like I said, I've been in tech for many years, and I've been through a lot of these innovation bursts. In fact, we were building computers, and we liked, I was at Hewlett Packard, and we liked to make it all. We were making processors, and we were making the boards, we were making the software, the firmware, we made it all, and we were perfectly happy to do that, and we charged you all a lot of money for it. And then Mr. Dell came along and said, I can do it better and faster, and all of a sudden, it changed everything for us. We started to, by the way, that's when I read the Good to Great book. So we started to outsource. We started to say, okay, we're really good at this. Let's outsource and let them be really good at that. And I think that's where we're at in this ecosystem. We're moving from a lot of that DIY. And by the way, when you do DIY, you're stagnant on innovation because we're all innovating that same wheel over and over again. Because a number of us have crossed that big journey of being able to do this fast enough. I designed supercomputers, and handful of people can do this fast enough with the lowest latency to do it in under 30 milliseconds. Like, once you cross that, why do people need to keep inventing that same thing over again? We need to start inventing on how to make this more demanding. So I'm seeing a big shift in folks wanting to go be open to a new ecosystem. And I think it's the right move. But it also brings a lot of challenges on trust, on integration, and we're looking at a lot of ways to solve that and pretty much earning our stripes since we're the newbie up here.
Well, if Kelly has anything to say about it, the NBA may come to stand for next bet already. Join me in thanking Kelly for her time. All of our hot sticks, and if you wouldn't mind, also extending a thank you to the excellent crack production team from iGaming Next, your hosts, and of course all of the sponsors for this event. There's a reason why people have come back the second year and will continue to come back in the years to follow. So please, one more round of applause for the hardworking team that has made this event possible.